Hello, and welcome to this week's HelloMD Advisor Live Edition. I'm Pamela Hadfield.
And I'm Dr. Perry Solomon, and we're here to give you snapshots about what happened this week regarding cannabis. Pamela, our first story is what?
Well, Walgreens. What happened at Walgreens this week?
They posted on their blog a comment relating to cannabis.
Well, it wasn't just comment. It was a big, long article all about information regarding cannabis that they sent out there to in their entire user base.
One of their pharmacists talked about the medical properties of cannabis, the legality about cannabis, and some of the small side effects that happen when you use cannabis.
Right. I was here in the office and somebody got the email and called me over and I looked at it and I said, I can't believe that Walgreens sent out this email.
I couldn't believe it either. A spokesperson from them said that it was only for information and they want, if you have more specific questions, to talk to your physician about it.
Right, but I'm sensing some foreshadowing here.
Well,
some real foreshadowing.
No kidding. In 2015, $5.2 billion was spent on cannabis.
So Walgreens is clearly making their mark and treading very lightly to get into the cannabis space. And I think that a lot of this has to do with the federal conversation about deregulation. And I think they're hedging their bets and thinking, you know what, let's just sort of be around the edges of this conversation so that when deregulation happens, perhaps in a year or two, and that's what I think that they're thinking, we can get in very quickly.
It'll get legalized, and they'll be able to actually sell it from their pharmacies, just like they do it, like in Israel, for example.
Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. So, seniors. The conversation about seniors.
What's up?
It is one of the largest growing demographic, or I should say one of the fastest growing demographics within cannabis.
And what do they use it for mostly?
Well, seniors do not use cannabis to get high. We do know that. 14% of our population is considered a senior citizen. And of those senior citizens, they consume 30% of the opioids in this country. So opioid abuse is a huge concern for seniors themselves, as well as the nation. So I think what they're doing is that they're turning to cannabis as a viable option for pain, arthritis, and insomnia.
Well, you and I went to a senior community out here in California called Rossmore, and they have a 200-member cannabis club, and 100 people were there, and almost all of them had their recommendations.
It was standing room only, Perry, and it wasn't because it was you and I.
No. They're curious to be involved. They want to get information. They need to get information about cannabis and what it can do. And all, like they said, these people use it for pain.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about the senior community is that they actually are part of the conversation, and they are changing perceptions about who uses cannabis and why.
Absolutely.
So I'm a big fan of this as long as they're educated.
This is a great story.
Yeah. All right, so poor Woody Harrelson. What happened to Woody?
Well, Woody is a big proponent of cannabis, and just last week, his company, Simple Organic Living, was shot down in Hawaii for an application to get a dispensary license.
You mean shot down in terms of he didn't get his license?
He did not get his license. There were 65 people that applied for it, companies that applied for it, and only 8 licenses were issued, and his wasn't one of them.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't come as a big surprise because getting a license in any state where it's legal to have a dispensary is actually a big deal. It costs a lot of money, there's a lot of politics involved, and there are always a lot of rules and regulations around it. So just because Woody's a celebrity doesn't mean that Woody gets what he wants.
They needed $1 million in cash, $100,000 per dispensary.
Money's not the problem.
Money is not an issue. They had to live there for 5 years, but it'd be interesting to see what Hawaii says, who got the licenses that they were issuing, and where they're from.
Well, I think that what we're probably going to see in that list, and what I would hope we would see, is that most of the people or the organizations that got their licenses are actually Native Hawaiians.
Which would be just and right.
All right. So this next story, Perry, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Actually, I do know how I feel about this. I don't like it.
Who is this guy?
This is Leafy. It's called My First Grow Kit. Okay, so a guy from the UK is a proponent of children learning how to farm and to grow agriculture. And so he creates My First Grow Kit, and where a child can grow a cannabis plant. So this is where it gets kind of interesting because cannabis, there's medical marijuana cannabis that has a higher THC content, which is what we deal with, and then there is hemp cannabis. This does happen to be hemp cannabis, which is technically 1% THC or less in order to be hemp. So that's fine.
But why not give them a kit that grows herbs. I mean, in terms of anything but cannabis.
And this is where the gray area comes in, and this is what makes me feel very uncomfortable. Although hemp is a wonderful plant, and there's so much that you can do with it. You can make clothes, you can make paper, you can make a house or a car out of hemp.
Out of this little cup?
No, out of hemp, the plant, the fibers of hemp. The problem is that it's very difficult to distinguish the hemp plant from the cannabis plant, which is one of the reasons why people say that hemp became illegal, is because it's so hard to distinguish from cannabis. And it's a Schedule I drug.
And it's illegal in the United States. So if Child Protective Services sees that your child is growing something that's illegal, couldn't there be ramifications for that?
Exactly. And this is my biggest problem, is that terrible. It's a Schedule I drug. And although it says it's an adult novelty kit, hello, cannabis grow kits for kids.
Yeah.
Done.
I question this whole premise.
Question. Good. Okay. So Green Rush, a leading delivery platform in San Francisco, what did they do this past week?
This past weekend, they had a job fair, essentially. They had over 2,500 people register for it. The line was literally stretched around the block.
Because you were there,
right in downtown San Francisco. Right. We were there as HelloMD, interviewing patients for their recommendations, and it was packed the whole day. They had 32 booths set up, from dispensaries to high-tech people wanting to give them software to track their cannabis from seeds all the way to sale. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here for people to get employed.
Right. Well, I give big props to Green Rush, because you know what? If you look at what happened in Colorado, the stats are that 200,000 jobs were created in 1 year alone with the legalization of cannabis in Colorado. And what that could do for California, it's huge. I mean, we could just leave it at that, but I hope that Green Rush continues to have these job fairs, and that other people and other organizations in different states take a look at this.
They pick up on it.
And they pick up on it. So, way to go.
That's great. Good way to go, Green Rush.
Yeah. All right. So, oops.
Who is he?
This is Franklin Graham, and what was he smoking, Perry?
No, well, it's a good question. Well, who is this guy anyway?
So this is Billy Graham's son,
okay.
the evangelical Christian, and Franklin Graham has taken on the mantle. And this past week, he put out a post on Facebook that was shared over 7,000 times, which was essentially an anti-marijuana drug rant.
Why was it even there, and where did he get his information from?
He got his information off of a Scientology website that is anti-drug. They have a big organization that spreads their propaganda. And so he went on a complete rant. But here's an evangelical Christian who's getting his facts from a Scientology website.
Facts like what? Come on.
So a fact such as, if you smoke marijuana, it will split your cells, in addition to causing cancer, it will split your cells and cause hereditary defects in your unborn child. Now, doctor, can you create a hereditary defect by doing something to yourself?
Unless you've had it yourself, no, but it doesn't make any sense at all.
Exactly. Okay, so Franklin Graham, what were you smoking?
We have no idea, but stop doing it.
All right. So we hope to see you next week. This is HelloMD Advisor Live Edition, and Pamela Hadfield and Dr. Perry Solomon. Have a good week.
Thank you.